Welcome back, Super Friends. Today we are going to be doing some problem solving with our multiplication of fraction problems. We're going to have to think some problems through like puzzle pieces and try to put them all together to give us our answer. So you'll need your math notebook or folder, pencil to write with, and don't forget that super brain of yours. Stay tuned for the video. All right, Super Friends, we are going to multiply fractions and problem solve. So it's going to be a bunch of multi-step problems. Don't forget, we'll have to remember our steps when it comes to multiplying fractions and whole numbers, multiplying mixed numbers, multiplying fraction by fraction, all the stuff that we've been practicing this past couple of weeks. So let's start with the first example. The first question says, how many more students bring lunch from home than buy lunch? So let's see. At Kara School, 5/9 of the 360 students bring their lunch. So that's who brings their lunch. And then the other students buy lunch. So the other students buy lunch in the cafeteria. How many students bring their lunch from home than buy school lunch, basically, is what they're saying. So for this, we know that to bring it from home, in order to figure out that amount, we would do the 5/9 times 360. Now, the other amount of students that buy lunch, so let's say buy lunch, that's going to be whatever's left over. I know whatever that is, I'm going to multiply by 360 because that's what's there. But if we look at that 5/9, what makes one whole if we're using a fraction of 9 as the denominator? 9 over 9 makes it the denominator, right? So if we have 5/9 minus, or if we have 9 over 9 minus 5/9, what are we left with? If we did this, what are we left with? 4 over 9, right? So I'm assuming that this 4 over 9 is going to be what we're working with, only because they just said that 5/9 of the school bring their lunch and the rest of them buy the lunch. So if I'm just saying what's the rest of 9 over 9, or one whole minus 5/9, that would turn into 9 over 9 minus 5/9 equals 4/9. So that's why we figured out our 4/9 there. So now what we're doing is we're taking this amount that we have here and this amount that we have here, and then we're subtracting them because it said how many more. That how many more means subtract. So now we have our equations. So of course we're going to have to figure out how we solve our multiplication of a fraction and a whole number, and then we're going to have to subtract them. So obviously what I want to do is start multiplying right away so that we can get this. And remember, when we have the whole numbers, we multiply, we make this a fraction, put a 1 underneath it, we multiply across. So 5, that looks like an S, sorry, 5 times 360 over 9 times 1, which equals 9. Let's see what that gives us. So on the side, I'm going to multiply 360 times 5. I know 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30, so I put a 0 here, regroup the 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 plus the 3 that I regrouped is 18. So now I have that here. So it's going to be 18 on top, or 1800 on top, and then 9 times 1 is 9. Now I have to divide. So now I'm doing 18 divided by 9. Okay, this one is a trick that I taught you guys. What is the 18 divided by 9? What does that equal? How many 9s make 18? That's 2. And then what do I do with these 2 zeros? I bring them down because I didn't touch them. Since there's no zeros with the 9, I just bring down the zeros that I have. So now that gives me 200. So this answer is 200, and that's how many students bring lunch from home. So there's 200 students there. And remember, we have to subtract whatever we find over here. So I'm doing the same thing on this side. Put a 1 underneath my 360 and then multiply across. So now I have 4 times 360 over 9 times 1. What does that give me? Okay, so we're going to have over here 360 times 4. I know 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 6 is 24. Put the 4 down, regroup the 2. 4 times 3 is 12 plus the 2 that I regrouped, that's 14. So now I have 1440 on top, and then 1 times 9 is 9 on the bottom. Now I have to divide. I don't easily know what 144 divided by 9 is, so this time I'm going to make my house. And then we'll see from there. How many times does 9 go into 1? 0 times. So I do 1 minus the 0. That equals 1. Bring down the 4. How many times does 9 go into 4? 1 time. That equals 9. Subtract it out. What is 14 minus 9? That's going to be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 5. Bring down the next number, which is 4. How many 9s can I get out of 54? I know my 9s facts. That's 6. If I didn't know my 9s facts, I should have written them down somewhere, and we would do that step beforehand. So that's 54. Subtract it out. I get 0. Bring down the last number, which is 0. How many zeros can you get out of 0? 0. Subtract out your 0. There's nothing else to do. So our answer appears 160. So this would give us 160 students. Now, if we were to subtract this, what's 200 minus 160? 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 6 I cannot do, so I have to borrow from the 2, turn that 2 to 1, and regroup to that next 0 that I have. That 0 will now return to a 10. 10 minus 6 equals 4, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So now our answer is 40 students. So whichever option that is, that's our answer. So 40 more students would be it. All right, so this one was ultimately two-step problem where we had to, well, actually a three-step problem. We had to multiply twice and then subtract what we found, but that's how we get it. It obviously looks a little crazy with all the stuff that we had to do, but this is how we would have solved this puzzle problem. Let's do the next example. The second question says, Jeff had $20. He spent 1/8 of his money on lunch and 2/5 of his money at the movies. How much money does Jeff have left? It seems like we're going to do something similar to what we did before, where we have to multiply some numbers and then subtract what we got, or add and subtract. I think it might be 5 steps this time. So first, we want to start with how much money he spent on lunch. So we'll say lunch. And the way that we figure that out is multiply our 20 times our 1/8. Then we want to figure out, and we're adding this together because we have to subtract it afterwards. Then we need to figure out how much money did he spend on the movies. And that's going to be, again, 20 because it's the $20 that we're talking about. 20 times the 2/5. And then once we get that answer, we want to take that answer and subtract it from the 20 to figure out our final total. So let's work on this part first, then we'll be able to figure out the rest. So for lunch, what he did was he got 20 over 8. Let's simplify that. How many 8s can I get out of 20? Well, I don't know, Ms. Joyce. Let's get our 8s facts. So that's 8, 16, 24. Oh, the biggest one is the 2, right? So you can get 2 18s out of it. What is 20 minus 16? 20 minus 16, let's see. Borrow, regroup. So it's 4. 4 over 8. What's another way to say 4 over 8? It should be, because 4 is half of 8, it should be 2.5 now. So instead of saying 4 over 8, I'm going to say 2.5 now. Now I'm going to add that to whatever we find over here. So, of course, 20 over 1, now we have 40 on top because 20 times 2 is 40. And on the bottom we have 5. How many 5s can I get out of 40? If we don't know that offhand, we can just get our 5s facts. 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. How many 5s is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8. That equals 8, and there's nothing else to do there except add these together. So now what is 2.5 plus 8? well, that 2 whole plus the 8 whole equals 10 whole, and then I bring down my half. So now we're taking our $20 that we had and subtracting it from the $10.50. If I'm talking about half of a dollar, what does that look like in money terms? If I say half of a dollar, that looks like 50 cents, right? So I would do my 10.50. And now let's subtract. I'm going to remove the 20 up top. So 20.00. And let's get to it. We've done this subtracting money many times. We've done it in 4th grade and we've done it now, or earlier this year. So let's go ahead and start. Just like always, 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 5, I can't do that. And I definitely can't borrow from a 0. So I have to borrow from the 2 up top. That 2 turns to a 1. This 0 next to me turns to a 10, but then I still need to borrow for the original 0 that I needed it from. So that 10 turns to a 9 now. And now the 0 that I need the 10 to be is now a 10. So it says 10 minus 5, that's 5. Don't forget to bring down the decimal. And 9 minus 0 is 9. 1 minus 1 is 0. So here's our money. This is how much money we have left. So $9.50 left, which it looks like is our last option here. All right, so this one was basically around the same amount of steps that we had before, but this is what we're working with. Let's go into the third example. All right, so example number 3 says, Tom's dad is putting crown molding, which is like if you ever go to your house and look at the ceiling or the floor, there's like a little baseboard or like a little white wood looking thing that's on top of the bottom or the top of the wall. That's what's called crown molding, and it's on the top when they're talking about the crown because you wear a crown on your head. So he's putting crown molding around the top of all the walls of Tom's bedroom. The dimensions of his bedroom are shown. So I see one side of the wall looks like 11 3/4 foot, and then the other side of the wall looks like 15 3/4 foot. I know we've been practicing area, but if we're talking about putting something around an area, we're not going to be talking about the inside of the rectangle. So if they said like filling the room, then we would talk about the area, but they're talking about around the room, so that means perimeter. And perimeter means that we're going to do length plus side, or height plus height, or whatever those are, but it's, or width plus width. It's just saying that we're doing one side twice and the other side twice. So what I normally teach is I say put the same number across. So 11 3/4 over here. Put the same number across, 15 3/4 here. All right, so now what we're going to do in order to figure out how much crown molding is needed there, we have to add everything up like it shows in that equation. But our final answer that we're trying to get, guys, is we're trying to see how much does it cost if it's 85 cents per foot. So that means that whatever total we get for our perimeter, we're going to multiply it, because it says each. So we're going to multiply it by our 85 cents and then get a money answer. So let's start with adding. So I have 15 3/4 plus 15 3/4. I've never taught you guys to add it this way, but you can add it this way. What I want to do is try to make a 1 whole. So I want to try to make my fractions have 1 whole on it. So if I take 1 of the thirds here and leave it with 2/3 and add that 1/3 over here, so this is going to look like 4/4, that will give me the 1 whole I'm looking for, and that's going to give me 16 instead. Now that all turns to 16. So now I'm going to have 15 2/4 plus 16. So I know that regroup, that's going to be 31 2/4 right here. Now let's look at the next one, 11 3/4, 11 3/4. Again, I want to do the same thing. I'm trying to make a 1 whole. So cross out, that turns to 2, add the 1 that I just crossed out. So now this all turns into a 12, and that's 11. So that's going to be 3, no regrouping, 2. So 23 2/4. Now I add these together. 2/4 plus 2/4. Doesn't that turn into one whole? Yes, it does. So now this is gone, and I add one more whole to it. So I have 31 plus 23 plus 1. That's going to equal 5 here, and that's going to equal 5 there. So now I have 55 feet. That's what we're talking about for our feet. So now we have to do our 55 feet and multiply it by the 85 cents. Now, if you don't remember how to multiply our decimals, I just treat it like whole numbers. So now it's going to just look like 80 plus 5. So 85 times 55, 50 plus 5. And then I'll add my decimal back in later. So looking at this, I have 8 times 5, that's 40. I'll bring over 2 zeros. 1, 2. On the bottom, on this one, I have 8 times 5 again, that's 40. Bring down only 1 0. Over here, 5 times 5 is 25. Bring over 1 0. And on the bottom, 5 times 5 is just 25. Let's add all these together. Oopsie. 400, 250, and then 25. All right, let's see what we get. We have 5 here. 2 plus 5 is 7. 2 plus 4 is 6. Bring down the 4. Okay, cool. Now looking at our money, we need 2 places after the decimal. 0.85 shows that we have 2 places after the decimal. That means I need to put my decimal right in the middle of the number so that there's 2 numbers after the decimal. So the amount of money that we have here is 46.7. So that's how much that it costs. So our answer is going to be 46.75. And that's what we typed there. This is our answer. All right, let's do the last example. All right, super friends, our last example that we're going to do today says Sarah spends 1/6 of an hour vacuuming her mom's car. So the vacuuming the car is 1/6 of an hour. She spends 4 times as long washing the car. So 4 times as long as she did vacuuming, but washing the car. Then it says she spends twice as long waxing the car as she does washing the car. So whatever this equals, which is 4/6, because if I go like that, she does twice that washing the car. And then it says, what's the total amount? So we're adding everything together. So what I like to do is say vacuuming for V, that equals 1/6. Then I'm going to say washing the car. We'll say washing the car equals that 4 times 1/6, which is 4 on top, 6 on the bottom. And then lastly, we're going to say the waxing is 2 times the washing, which was 4/6. So that's going to equal what? 8 on top, 6 on the bottom. And then it tells us to get the total amount. So that means we're adding all of these. So it's going to be V plus washing plus waxing. And then we got to get our answer. So 1/6 for V plus 4/6 for washing plus 8/6 for waxing. What do I get on the bottom? Because the denominator won't change when we're adding. That denominator stays at 6. What am I going to get on top? 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 8 is 13. Okay, now how many 6s can I get out of 13? If I do my 6 facts, I see 6, 12, 18. Oh, 2. I can get 2 6s out of 13. And what would be left over if I got 12 out of 13? 1 is left over. And then what's my denominator? Because that won't change. 6. So our answer is 2 and 1/6 hours. So which option shows us that? Yep, C. All right, that one was simple. It did take a lot of steps, but they were simple steps. So that's what we are doing for our problem solving. I wanted us to make sure we knew how to do this the right way. Our next lesson would be more practice with each of the skills that we learned.